Welcome back. Dan Bongino via Skype from Palm City, Florida. It's always been that if you were born in the U.S., you were an American citizen, independent of your parents' status. Is a time we rethink what is referred to as birthright citizenship.
Well, Bruce, it hasn't always been that way. That's a common misconception. That's actually not the case. Nowhere in the 14th Amendment does it say specifically that if you are born in the United States only, that you are a United States citizen. There is a separate clause in there, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. If the 14th Amendment drafters intended for everyone who was born in the United States without any other subsets or caveats there, then that's what they would have written. But that's not what they wrote. Matter of fact, the drafters of the 14th Amendment said the exact opposite, that this was not intended to provide citizenship for everyone born in the United States. So the statement that this is always the way it's been is just not true. It may be by default and de facto the way it's been for the last 50 or 60, 70 years, but that's not the way it's always been. That's not the case.
All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Some perceive a problem in need of a fix, right? Pregnant women coming across timed to coincide with the birth of their child, right? I mean, that's what's driving the conversation we're hearing?
Yeah, that's exactly what's driving the problem. We're talking about 300 to 400,000 new births a year to people who've come here illegally in violation of the law, who then, as a reward, their children then become citizens of the United States and can then sponsor those people later on to come back in. Now, there's a lot of anger and animosity on this issue and very little rationality, Bruce. The fact is that, the people who are calling this an extreme idea, here's a couple of facts for you. Sometimes people have a vaccine to facts, unfortunately. You can look this up yourself. An amendment like this was sponsored by Democratic Senator Harry Reid to revoke birthright citizenship in 1993. Secondly, there are only two advanced economies in the entire world that do this, Canada and the United States. So unless you think all of Europe is full of a bunch of extremists, your point is just absurd. I'm not saying you personally, but all the people out there are saying it's some kind of extreme position. It's actually an extreme position to grant birthright citizenship to people who come here illegally, not the other way around. Those are just the facts. I mean, unless you think the rest of the world is crazy, most of the world does not, in fact, do this for the very obvious reason that it creates a mathematical entitlement problem later on if you simply come here to have a child and use that to anchor other people coming into the country later.
We've got a minute left. This aspect of the conversation we no doubt will come back to in the days and weeks ahead. Let me ask you, Dan, for your quick thoughts on the politics of this. At a time of party outreach to Latinos who are growing as a segment of the population, and the GOP tends to do well overall. The better they do with Latinos, not so good when the numbers aren't there. Does this blunt the outreach the party's making to Hispanic Americans, to Hispanic voters?
No, I don't think so, Bruce. I think there's an assumption in there that's wrong. I think the question is wrong. I think the premise is wrong. I think the premise that somehow Latino or Hispanic voters somehow support a lawless immigration process and open borders, en masse, and will never change their minds on that is outrageous. The same thing could have been said about Italian or Irish immigrants to the country, 80, 90, 100 years ago. I think that's not true, and I think over time they'll see that a law-abiding, labor market-sensitive program is far better.
I'm up on the clock, unfortunately. Dan, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. We'll talk with you again. Back with the program note after this.